It's been so long. I feel like since I have a lot of people on who are mainly like PvE or PvP related.
Mhm.
Um, and those conversations, I feel like they can go one of two ways. You know, like you either really love it or you really hate it, or
Yeah.
like, yeah. And a perspective, we've had other creators on to talk about art and everything, but something that I haven't done a lot of is talk to developers about like using the API
Mhm.
to make cool projects, kind of like what you do in the space.
But actually cool, unlike what I do.
Well, I mean, no, you do cool shit. You make cool stuff. For those in the audience who don't know who you are, uh, would you like to introduce yourself and maybe a couple of the not products but projects that you've taken up for the Destiny community?
Yeah, I'm Chris Freed. Um, let's see. Like the first thing I touched in on the Destiny with the Bungie API was right after Neutral released the original version of Dim. A
Mm-hmm.
bunch of us hopped in and we're like, "This is amazing, but it's really ugly. Let's all help make it look better." Um, so I helped out with that a little bit at the very start, but it turned
Yeah.
into a lot of cooks in one kitchen really quickly. So I backed up out of there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of really good developers in there already. They didn't need my help. um, but then after that, I cooked up the first version of Guardian Theater, which,
Mm-hmm.
if you're unfamiliar, will take your activity history and it will look through it and it will try to find Twitch streamers that have VODs that overlap with the games you played that they were in, and or Xbox clips, which originally was just Xbox clips,
Mm-hmm.
because it was before Twitch really took off. Like it was, man,
Yeah.
that's wild to think about.
I think the only interview that I've heard from you is from way back in the day during Guardian Radio. I think they
Hmm,
had you on an episode and you discuss. Well, it was either that or the Dads of Destiny, not Dads. Uh,
maybe,
the Distinguished Gentleman
yeah.
podcast might have had you
Yeah,
on.
it's been a long time. Like I went down to the not the very first Guardian Con that was like 30 people in a restaurant, but
Yeah,
the first one that was a bunch of people.
yeah.
And I met a whole bunch of people. Like a bunch of us developers went down. Like a bunch of the Dim guys were there, and the Trials Report guys were there, and the
Mm-hmm.
uh, Destiny Tracker guys were there. And so it was
Yeah.
fun to meet all these people. But then did a handful of podcasts with people I'd met uh, shortly after that, and then just went dark again.
Which is probably safe, knowing how the communities go. But no, like I remember you talking about that, like being like primarily for like Xbox clips, and Guardian Theater is kind of like how through those podcast interviews is how I found you, and then I started looking at Guardian Theater, and it's pretty hilarious. At one point, I think you installed like a plugin to remove me from people's feeds because occasionally.
I think on your request, I had added the button that lets you hide your own feed, and I said it was hiding
Oh,
you
it was the anti.
specifically.
Oh, okay, got you. That's fair and valid, and thank you for doing that. But yeah, it's such a cool tool, and something that has like, I mean, it's been content fodder for years
Hmm.
for most of the PvP community. But like, what led you? What was the impetus for that tool? Were you just like, I want to share clips, or?
And Buddy and I just shared a lot of Xbox clips back and forth, and I just
Mm-hmm.
got thinking, like, well, I've been playing with this API with the Dim guys, and I was like, what else can I do with this? Like, man, it'd be really cool to just see the clips that other people recorded, because I'll record this cool thing that happened in Iron Banner, and no one's ever going to see
Mm-hmm.
it. But like, what if someone else said the same thing? Like the first couple of years, I feel like before Twitch took off, people
Mm-hmm.
were much more likely to record Xbox clips. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that has tapered off significantly over the years. But
Oh
that was
yeah.
like the perfect time to build an app around Xbox clips, because everybody, every time they did something cool in Iron Banner or Trials or whatever, it was like, yeah, I'll clip that. And
Mm-hmm.
it was so much fun to be like, yeah, well, yep, they murdered me, and that's 6 free.
Well, and with that, like along the way over the past couple of years, you created like the heat maps
Hmm.
which is something that I used. I forget I forget which argument I was having with my partner at the time, but she was like, "You spend way too much time with this game," and I was like, "No, I don't." And then I looked it up on your tool, and yeah, there's some dark days on there, but
Yeah.
um, and then with your newest tool with SRL2, which we got the pleasure of playing around with on one of the sub nights in my channel, thanks to you.
Hmm.
Um, what what is it about like the Destiny API that makes it, I don't know if it's easier to provide external tools for the community or what, but what is the difference between like the Destiny API and what other games offer?
Yeah. Um, like over the years, I have looked at recreating theater for other games.
Mhm.
And almost always there's a piece of the puzzle missing from the data available. Like
Mhm.
the Halo API, um, I think they changed it in recent history, but for the longest time didn't put timestamps on their activities. So you could see your
Mhm.
activity history, but it wouldn't tell you when those activities took place, which was like for privacy reasons, it made a lot of sense. Like
Yeah.
it was a good decision on their part. It just makes doing what I do impossible because I need to look at when the Twitch clips happened and when the game happened and match them up. It
Right.
just doesn't work if there's no timestamps. Um, and like the Halo API, like it's definitely like a legacy of from when Bungie worked on Halo and like they
Mhm.
continued it forward. So it's not a surprise that it's a very well thought out API. That's kind of where good API support in games ends.
Okay.
Like there are like the PUBG has a good one that allows for activity history and that sort of thing. And as a result, one of the guys that did Trials Report went out and made PUBG Report, which is a
Mhm.
Guardian Theater clone for PUBG, which is fantastic. Um, but like things like the items, like being able to mess with your items and see them and move them around is
Right.
uniquely Destiny. Like that is not a thing I've seen on anybody else's API. So it just allows for a lot more, just a lot more surface area to
Yeah.
do fun stuff with it. And like there's so much just like since they expose everything they want to put in their own app into that API, it just
Mhm.
allows everyone to build all these fun things on top of it. Like Brightech just gets to go ahead and rebuild the entire app experience. Like
Which is insane. Like that's what, it's one of the prettiest apps in the community in the community.
it is.
And
Tom does a fantastic job with that.
absolutely. But with your own projects. So like I know what SRL2 because I got to play with it. Like I know what it is because I got to play with it.
Right.
But like under the hood, I have no idea what what's going on there. So
uh,
walk me through like why did you create a basically a tool that allows you to sync all of your loadouts across you and several of your buddies?
it started out as a thing I kept like okay, so over the years I have pitched ideas to the Dim team, and a lot of the
Mhm.
time they'll just do them, and I don't have to do any work.
Mhm.
But this was one where over and over again I was like, "Hey, you guys should add this," and they were like, "No." That sounds like a lot of effort for no payoff. Um, but it was an excuse to play with weapons you don't usually play with. Like you
Mhm.
can randomize your own loadout in Dim, fine, but I don't know. There's something about having the same garbage trash loadout as your friends have that you can just commiserate immediately over like
Yeah.
what's happening in the activity that you're playing is just very satisfying.
Mhm.
And so it turned into since I couldn't get them to do it, I made an initial version that used the spreadsheets you can export from Dim, which is a tedious process.
Yeah.
um, everybody export your spreadsheet, send it to one person, upload the spreadsheets, hit the button, then send the search term back.
And now
So
we're
now,
having fun.
yeah, right, yeah. So, but I mean, once after the first roll, then you can just
Yeah.
keep rolling them. Like
Yeah.
it's just a lot of setup process to it. And so I built another version that cut all that part off, where you could just type in people's names, and it would pull up everybody's inventories automatically, which is great if you have your privacy settings set correctly to allow public
Yeah.
access to your vault.
I
And
remember
if
it
not,
being a
then it
little bit
becomes
of a
uh,
setup.
right, a separate
Yeah.
tedious setup of all right, go here on the Bungie settings, down to this panel, turn this off. Okay, so now the current rendition allows everybody to log in and join a room like
Yeah.
Jackbox style, and it
Oh
just
yeah.
handles it magically. But you still have to. There's one last piece of friction, which is you still have to manually take the search string and paste it into dim and hit randomize from search. And I would like to just
Mhm.
be able to hit randomize and then equip
And
it.
just have it happen.
but like dim does a lot of logic around like, well, if you're like moving an item is easy enough, but making sure there's
Hmm.
space for that item and it's not on the right. Like if your vault is full, there's a lot of heavy logic around like, okay, we got to make space here so we can move something here, so we can move something here. We got to unequip
Hmm.
here. Yeah, okay, which is just it's a lot of work. So so far it's just sticking with pasting the search in.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I think it was like an Iron Banner weekend or week that we had that sub night, and you're like, hey, you want to like, do you want to try out this thing that I've been working on? And it was a lot of fun. There were like the more people you have, like obviously the fewer
Hmm.
like the probability of you having the same thing in your vault as somebody else in your vault goes down. Do you have a way to work around that in the future, or
There's the one piece is there's a checkbox there to turn on collections. So if you want to include everybody's
yeah,
collections, and then you have to take the time to go in and make sure you pull things before you equip it, which is again tedious. And
yeah,
there was a different version of it that had uh, checkboxes for matching on archetype and or type instead of
okay,
specific guns, which I wasn't using. So when I rebuilt it, I didn't rewrite that.
yeah,
I mean, if people actually like right now, this app gets used by 10 people a month.
yeah.
If it ever takes off and people are like, "Yeah, we'd really like that feature," sure, I'll put it back in.
Well, I'm
But
planning on using it for more shenanigans in my streams, especially when it comes to like charity stuff. But
I've got one
what?
clanmate who just prunes his vault religiously down to whatever he's using only, and it's like,
Uh,
how? How do you? Are we playing the same game?
dude, like, so I have farming mode on constantly
Hmm.
in dim, and so my vault gets completely flooded with all sorts of stuff, usually for like the first month and a half of a new season, and then I have to go through and prune everything based on recommendations from other people using like the Destiny recipes
Hmm.
site is how I normally do that. Um, so I understand the plight of that, but it's like I don't use everything in my vault, and that tool was really fun to like try out and all of it. Yeah, the shared like, oh well, we all gotta run this thing. Are you serious? Like that was super fun. Um,
Yeah.
do you
Almost every
have?
time I get a sidearm out of that, I'm like, man, this is a lot of fun. I never play sidearms, but this gun is
Oh
great.
yeah. So what weapons are you enjoying in Destiny 2 right now? Have you been playing a lot of Season of the Wish?
I've been playing the weekly story stuff mostly, and I popped on for Banner for some
Hmm.
SRL. Um, yeah, the little tracker pistol from the dungeon. That thing is
Yeah.
fantastic with that roll on
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite gun right now. I just
That's
saw Plunder put up an arc build built up around that gun, and I need to try that out.
heck yeah. I I've got the buried bloodlines, and like on my first go, Dunes calls that streamer luck. And so I've been going through, and I would whenever I would use it, people on TikTok is like, "Yo, what gun is that? What gun is that? What like where can I get it?" It's like, well, okay, well I gotta explain how to get this thing for the uptake
Yeah,
time.
I don't know that yet, but I did get the sidearm with the tracking on
Yeah.
the first run. I was like, yes, all right, perfect. If I don't run this again, that's fine. But
Hmm. Are there other weapons that are currently surprising you when you hop into like SRL2?
um, anytime a hockey gun comes up, I delete it.
Yeah,
I never like the sound of them.
they feel chunky.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
They're too much like real guns. I think is part of my problem, and
yeah.
I want space guns. I want fancy
Y-
imaginary guns, not real guns.
yeah, you're not somebody with a military fantasy.
Yeah, I'll go play Call
Yeah,
of Duty if I want real guns. I
right. Yeah.
don't want them in space.
Do you have any future plans? Do you have any like if there was one tool that you could create from the Bungie API, whether you're able to make it right now or sometime in the near future, what what are you dreaming up in a scenario where you could just build anything?
Man, I don't know. The SRL was on my mind for a long time. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've got another one. It's hard to want to make anything new right now because it's
Hmm.
hard to know how much community there will be after
Yeah.
Final Shape.
Hmm.
Um, that's definitely like, is it going to be worth my time to put this in? And it's not like anyone, like, I don't make any money off these things. Like,
Right.
in the best of times, I got enough donations to offset any costs for serving them, and that was
Yeah.
it. But it's still, it's just like, it's the satisfaction of seeing people use the tool and have fun
Of,
with it. Like
of making
that,
the thing.
that when Bungie released that the emblem for laser tag for
Hmm.
that weekend with the heat map tool just skyrocketed views. Like everyone was like, "Did I play that weekend? How do I find
Yeah.
out? How do I find out if I played that weekend?" And suddenly everyone was using that app, which was a great time.
Hmm.
No, so it's fun to just like that's the saddest thing for me about Twitter eating
Hmm.
shit is that I don't see people talking about those apps there anymore. 'Cause
Hmm.
I got off of there, and that community hasn't reappeared elsewhere from what I've
Yeah.
found.
Like I think your only other large alternative would be Reddit.
Yeah, and I've never been a big redditor. Like,
Yeah. Concerning like the community after like whatever Final Shape is or
mhm.
whatever. Uh, where do you see that going?
Yeah, I don't
Like,
know. I,
yeah.
I yeah, I so there's a Discord full of other third party developers.
Hmm.
And a few weeks ago, I was like, "Hey, are any of you like just taking this as an opportunity to quit supporting your apps?" Because it's hard to be like, if you like a lot of the people that build apps on Destiny
Hmm.
don't necessarily play that much anymore. Like
Hmm.
they were very active players. That's why they built the thing they wanted to build, and now they've moved on. But they're still supporting this app because people are using it. They have that community
Hmm.
around it. And I was like curious if people are going to just stop. Like, is this a good time to be like to stop paying for that thing that you're paying for? That's not making any
Yeah.
money.
That
Um,
subscription.
right. And I didn't get any good answers, but I am
Yeah.
curious to see if that like if anyone does
Hmm.
drop off or if projects start changing hands as people take it as
Move
a
on.
opportunity to retire
Yeah.
from Destiny. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be
Would
interesting
there
to see what happens.
would there be any other games that you would want to build tools for if you do happen to retire from Destiny?
uh yeah, Destiny's just become the only game that really like lasts
Hmm.
for like I'll play games. I play tons of different games, but they're for a week or a month, and then they're
Yeah.
shelved, and there's no reason to build on top of them. And I don't know if I'd like I feel like I've put a lot of my time into Destiny, and I don't know if
Yeah.
I need to search out a new
Yeah.
live service game after it.
It's a
Either whatever happens at the end of Destiny. I don't know if I need a new game.
it was about making the thing. It wasn't necessarily like about needing to make the thing for every other thing, for every other
Yeah.
game that comes up. Yeah.
Yeah, and like anytime I looked into making theater for something, it was because someone pinged me on Twitter and was like, "Hey, could you make this for this?" or
Yeah.
"Does anyone have an app that's like this for this?" And I would have to just usually chime in with bad news that no. And like, there are tools that might make it possible, what's that thing called, Overwolf? There's a few
Hmm.
like tools that use computer vision to pull information out of games to like
Hmm.
build to build the sort of information you get straight from Bungie's API. But then you're dependent on people running that thing locally to get that information. It's just an extra layer of friction, which
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It hadn't seemed worthwhile to I think if I was deep into Apex Legends for a while, and I started
Hmm.
thinking about building something for that, and it would have been a lot of work to get the data out of it because there's no API available. And it
Yeah.
was there's a long standing thread on their forums that started a month after the game launched. It says, "Is there going to be an API?" And there's people bumping it for years. Like, is it coming? Is there an API coming? How about now? No, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd
I don't.
love to.
Oh,
I'd
sorry.
love to see you build something for Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah,
That's what I've been infatuated with.
It'll depend on the like they talked about adding tools for building your own stuff in the
Hmm.
Baldur's Gate engine. And if that happens and it like gets the longevity beyond just playing the campaign, then I certainly would be interested. Like I didn't know that they had like when I pulled up your stream the other day, I saw that you had the overlay for Baldur's Gate, so I didn't even know they had that much
Hmm.
integration. Um, yeah, yeah, it'd be fun. It's a game that's like it has a so far it feels like it has a shelf life. a
Yeah.
very, determined shelf life, and it like by the time I finish building something for it, it'll be
Yeah.
a
The
memory.
zeitgeist will be over for it.
Yeah.
Are you going to see Final Shape through?
I bought the
You bought the
not
thing?
season pass, but the whatever they called their the
Oh, the
biggest
deluxe
bundle.
edition thing?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I'll play them. I don't know if I'll play as much.
Mhm.
Even this year, I just haven't been playing nearly as much as I used to,
Mhm.
and I don't know. There was a guy in my clan that was really good at bringing in random people that he played with to like flesh the clan back out as people
Yeah.
petered off. But now he is not playing, so now it's just
So
slowly emptied out of people
yeah.
without replacements.
Oh
Like,
man.
well,
I think that's part of like for me part of like streaming on Twitch like I constantly have somebody to play with
mhm,
generally. And we've fostered a community that still enjoys playing and enjoys helping other people. Um but yeah, I think like been seeing that slow down too. Like just or somebody coming back and be like, "Yeah, man, I've been gone for like a year and I'm just catching back up." And so you do have those moments of people shedding off maybe who've played for maybe longer than they should than they should have in times where it was more of a drought. And then you have the people that are coming back. So I'm curious to see what the landscape looks like
yeah.
uh, after this.
I think it'll depend on what the episodes look like. Like,
Yeah,
how much content is that going to be, and what sort of release cadence is it going to have?
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I don't
S-
know. We'll see.
they've promised every 6 weeks something new pops up in the thing. So I don't know. We'll just have to see. But
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it'll become like Sea of Thieves is a game that I
mhm.
have played for years, but have never played more than a couple days at a time.
Oh yeah, no,
It's just, you check it out, you get the content, you come back in a couple months when new content has dropped.
right.
I fear that'll be Destiny moving forward, but
Hmm.
which is probably fine. Like, I don't think
Oh
it's a
yeah,
bad thing.
and probably healthy for the player base
Right? Yeah, yeah,
too.
yeah. Play some other games.
Yeah, there's lots of wonderful games out there now. Like I'm taking Destiny Digest to like every other week
Yeah.
because it's just one of those things where it's like there's not new news that's newsworthy every week unless I really wanted to cover community drama, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
And so I think it's healthy to kind of keep a pulse on it, but also to understand that like yeah, maybe the landscape will look a little bit different, and here's where adjusting your strategy or your hopes accordingly for that.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like the wind got taken out of a lot of people's sails
Hmm.
by the layoffs and the delay.
Hmm.
And so it's just hard to be excited about it. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't know. I hope they finish strong.
Hmm.
I've
And
enjoyed all the storytelling they've done this year.
yeah.
I really enjoyed Neomuna even. Like,
Hmm.
I feel like I was in the minority of enjoying the past couple of years of Destiny. But yeah, it was great.
Are
And
you
I hope they keep
somebody
doing
who
stuff.
are you somebody who normally likes the tying of loose ends in storytelling or
Yeah, I do.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun to see like, oh, let's pick up this thread of the queen
Hmm.
and her brother and finish like put some sort of tie that into a loose bow at least
Yeah.
of like the queen like, yes, I've grown and changed over the years, and Bro being like, yeah, I'm gonna do something extremely selfless to make up for being a selfish piece of shit in the past. Um,
Especially now that he has all of his memories back and he can remember
right.
being that piece of shit.
I think there's been some fun character growth that
Yeah.
it's hard to see at the pace they release content. I think is
Hmm.
I, like if I look back on the story that Destiny has told, I'm like, wow, that's a really good story.
Hmm.
But
It's
in the moment, it can be like, well, that wasn't much.
yeah. Yeah, because just like the release nature of everything. I'm hoping with the new story structure that they'll kind of give you a huge dump and just be like, "All right, kids, go play these missions. Like you can run through them as fast as you want for like this period, and then in 6 weeks you get another dump
Yeah,
of things." But I
I
don't.
Oh,
know how that fits into like. Does that mean that Final Shape isn't that deep, story wise, or?
my hope is the same hope I had for Halo that was totally
Mhm.
failed, which was that after the original trilogy and they went to like Halo, I'd really hoped they were just going to tell an entirely different story.
Mhm.
Like take Master Chief and Cortana in deep space, they just meet some totally other new group of people to
Mhm.
interact with, and then they were like, now we're just going to dig up the Forerunner stuff and retell all that stuff. And I think whatever, fine. It's not what I wanted, but for
Yeah.
Destiny, I would really like for each episode to just be totally unrelated to any other episode. Just give me
Mhm.
some fun story in that universe that doesn't like it does not doesn't have the gravitas of a 10-year long story, maybe, but like is a satisfying, contained
Yeah.
story would be
Like a Buck
fantastic.
Rogers kind of.
Right. Like and
Yeah.
like they have plenty of threads they could pick up on there again. Like
Mhm.
they've finished up more than I thought they were going to. Like I fully expected like Mara to become or not Mara, but uh Eris to just
Yeah.
full on become Hive and become a future big baddie. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting her to like revert back to herself.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some stuff that they could just run off and do a totally different thing.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I don't have any other questions for you at this time, but it's been great to have you at least for this conversation.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell the people where they can find you on the internet, good sir?
Well, you can find, more important than me, you can find the tools at there's d2srl.club, which if you're looking for sparrows, you're going to be disappointed.
Oh yeah.
There's Guardian.theater. There's uh, Scrubland, which you just Google that. Yeah, and I'm either Chris Freed or Free Chris in various locales.